So we'll continue. We were talking about the sense of touch is also kind of, creation of your brain or mind or whatever you call it right now. We'll discuss about it, whether it should be called mind or brain. There's a distinction between mind and brain. Those who are from philosophy, you also have come across the debate between dualism and monoism or something, that mind is non-material and then there is something called material matter. But we are not getting into that. We'll get into that later sometime, but right now it's all what is the experimental things show. So we had touch. We also have something called sense of balance, which we have never been taught actually, but we all have experienced it. There is something called vestibular system, which works every time. If vestibular system is not working, we can't live. And how you feel it? Just start rotating merry-go-round. And when you stop, what happens? Why? Because your sense of balance is gone. And I remember people used to say that there is something inside our head which also moves. It's not something inside our head, it's something in our ears. So in our ears there is a liquid which gives you the sense of balance. If those who lose this balance, they just can't stand, because for them the the direction is gone. And it's like there is a story about a person who lost it, and she felt like she is falling down every time. There is no stopping. She kept falling. There is a video which I'll skip. It's all about the vestibular system, how it works. If you want, I can show you, or you can just see it in the website or this presentation also. This is something which I wanted to end the previous section with, that cognitive science is, as we saw, that it has philosophical aspects, it has psychology, neuroscience, a lot of other things. But why should we study mind at all? Or should we just... the reason for one of them is we want to do a lot of engineering work also. So understanding brain is becoming very important. So I'll show you 2-3 small examples where the study of cognitive science has helped. You know the difference between MP3 and audio files, simple audio files, AVI? You use, no? MP3 and AVI. What is the difference? AVI, audio visual files, and MP3. These days we have MP3 players, we have MP3 format, MP4 also. But what is the difference? It's compressed. And compressed for what? The simplest reason is that 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz is our auditory capacity. Anything below, we cannot hear it. Anything beyond, we cannot hear it. So when you record sound, you get a lot of data from beyond 20,000 hertz and below 20 hertz, and that becomes very heavy. So MP3 files are light because it's pruned. You remove it and just take that part, and that is called cognitive engineering. Because you put any data, it will not make sense because you can't hear it. The best example again is the keyboard. Now it has become redundant because the keyboard was designed for the pressure of your finger, the frequency, for typewriters. Now there is no typewriter, so it doesn't make sense. But this was designed like that. This is something interesting. If some of you are designers, you might find it interesting. There is something called visual balance. You know the paintings by Mondrian? Mondrian's paintings are considered. Actually, this guy, he just drew blocks with colors. But the point of his things is, he says that his paintings are very balanced. Now, balance has a very interesting thing. It's simply that you take the view, divide it in between, and both sides you should have same amount of data. So that's where the symmetry comes in. But if you can think of non-symmetrical balanced design. So people who design things, they want to put this thing here so that this thing balances out. What is his name? Whistler's mother. There's a painting very famous. Anyone remembers the Mr. Bean also has a film on that. You remember that movie? Rowan Atkinson's movie where he goes to America and then destroys a painting. It's called Whistler's Mother or something. It's an American painting. But if you look at that painting, you'll find the meaning of visual balance, which is not symmetrical. If you look at these blocks, they are balanced. But if you design web pages are also same. So there is a study which is very interesting. If you design a web page, you know there was a website called Alta Vista. No? Okay, so people of my age would Alta Vista. There is a dialogue by Terminator also. What is that? Alta da Vista or something, I don't remember. Hasta Vista. It has a meaning? There must be some meaning. But there was a site called Alta Vista before Google came. And now you don't see. And Alta Vista was Google at that time. But when Google came, it had some innovation. But one of the best aspects of the studies show is that Google had a design which was visually balanced, which meant that before you decide a painting or something being beautiful, the idea of beauty comes when you have the perceptual level of visual balance. So your perception system, I would say that before you become aware, just decides whether this is, and that period is just 45 milliseconds. So if you design a web page which gives you enough visual balance for initial 45 milliseconds, sorry, not seconds, 45 milliseconds. If you satisfy your eyes with the visual balance, then only you will be interested to look at that website. If you just look at some websites and say, you are not saying it, but inside your brain, your perceptual system is saying that this is not good. So that beauty does not come up. Actually, there was this, we talked about this lady called Cheryl Slids. She lost her sense of balance. And so this is again one of the ideas that came up with this cognitive science, is that you can produce the feeling of sense of balance by touch. So integration of things. So maybe I'll show you this video. No, I'll not show you the video. It has a thing which has all these dots. These are electrodes, and it is connected to the camera of your eye or glass, and each pixel has a connection with these electrodes. So what it does is that when you take the picture, pixels are excited. So pixels has some value, and those pixels get converted into some kind of spikes. So you put this thing on your tongue. So what you actually get is wherever there is a high pixel, you will get the higher spike. So you get the feeling of this perceived object on your tongue, and slowly the brain learns. Okay, so the first part is over. I'll go to the second part.
Ask us a question.
Yeah.
Just to, you were affirm that Alta Vista was not balanced as a website, and that's why
one of the reasons. One of the reasons. Another reason is that why don't we use Yahoo? Bing, if you look at the design of Bing, apart from results, see, results is a different thing. It gives you better results is a different thing. But the point I'm making is that the website, if it is likable, if you want to push that website,
I understand. Okay.
it has to be visually appealing. Results come later, only when you start using it. So Google, people saying that, okay, it gives good results, only when people started using it.
I don't remember how Alta Vista was. But
Yeah. So Alta Vista was similar like Yahoo
trust
and
you.
other things. There is something called Web Archive. So if you just go to Web Archive, you will see, yeah.
But you're talking about balancing. But anyway, I think that even colors and images are attractive to who is watching a particular site.
So, yeah.
So it's different things that capture people.
Yes. You can say that there are people who have these priorities for colors. Some people like red, some people like black. But
They feel like a blue hot thing and involve you.
Yeah.
And red is something that gets you scared.
yes. So, yeah, I understand your point. That is important. But again, that comes later in the stage. So what I am saying is that, see, the 45 milliseconds time is something which, if you, I'll give you an idea. The brain has 27 different parts to process visual data. The occipital lobe is divided into 27 parts. Each part processes edges. There is another part, V4, which processes the color, speed. So all of this are processed in different parts of the brain and then combined. So the total time is something like 120 to 140 milliseconds. So if you look at an object, you take 140 milliseconds to identify that object, not to name it. Naming is another level. So 45 milliseconds is a very small time. But during that period, what you are getting is only the bigger picture. What is the color, what is the shape, and all those things, only those things, and whether they are put together in a sense that it appeals to you or not. So the sense of beauty is very inherent at a very small level, time scale is very small. Yes, then it gets into whether this color is appealing, whether I get emotionally attached to that color. Might be that this color may have a memory attached to it. So good memories and bad memories come in. They are later level processes, but I am talking only about 45 milliseconds time, which is just, and you are not even aware of it. I'll give you another example of this. There was this, how many of you are working in advertisement world? Anyone who is in advertisement? Or some of you might work in future. There are people who say that there is something called subliminal priming. Have you heard about the word called subliminal priming? There is a movie called Josie and the Pussycat. It's a very bad movie. Don't watch it. But watch it for one reason. There was an experiment in Canada actually, but there is a doubt about that experiment. The experiment, what it did was, in a movie, how many frames are there in a second? How many? 25 or 24. So in a second you have 24 still images, and they are played so that you get the movie. Now imagine that one frame is right in front of our eyes only for how many seconds? Calculate it. 24 divided by 1000 milliseconds. It comes around 40 to 50 milliseconds. So one frame is right in front of your eye only for 40 to 50 milliseconds. So what these people did was that they removed that one frame and inserted hungry, eat popcorn. So there is a movie going on and they removed one slide and inserted hungry, eat popcorn. So every second you are being presented with an idea, hungry, 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 eat popcorn. Now this experiment has been tried several times. Some results suggest different things, some results suggest different things. But the initial person who did it, his claim was that when this was done in a movie theater, 500 times the sale of popcorn grew. And when people were asked why, they had no clue at all. Because for 40 milliseconds, there is something which is keep on coming. In later classes, we'll also try to understand that perception is a matter of integration. So when the data is coming, it has to be integrated in a bigger schema. And this was suddenly hanging somewhere. And it has to produce some result. Some people did with water. I don't know how many of you follow, there is a serial called The Big Bang Theory. The Sheldon always keeps talking about linguistic priming. I am thirsty. I don't know if you remember that series. But there is something called linguistic priming. You can prime people with linguistic elements. But also there is something called subliminal priming, which doesn't work at all. And the best, which is still practiced, is brand placement in movies. So the Terminator or hero, or I don't know who, some big hero starts drinking something. You don't notice the detail, but it's there. Is he drinking Coke or is he drinking Pepsi? So there are people who pay money for these placements. And the reason is that it's called subliminal priming. In some countries it is banned explicitly. Australia, I know it's banned. But some countries, they don't care. So the point was that this time period is very small time period and we do not know actually what all is happening. But the results of experiments show that the idea of beauty is very inherent and it comes with perceptual things. Balance is one of them. There might be other things also. Any more questions? If you don't have questions, it's good. You don't have to answer.